Hello everybody, nice to have you here. Just gonna put this here because it's been buzzing. So this is okay, this looks good. This looks okay, CPU load is okay. Hey everybody, sorry. Nice to have all of you here once again on this Saturday show. And nice to have all of you here. This is the Shortwave radio show. Yeah, the buzzing was my phone. It was on the laptop. So hey everybody, welcome to this Saturday show. Let me just open up my beer. So I've got a big bottle of Fin du Monde today. I need to uncork this. Here we go. One part, two parts. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at the fumes coming out of this thing. It's almost like a champagne bottle. So here we go. Let me just fill up my glass with my favorite beer. I decided to go to Fin du Monde because I kind of didn't like much the one that I had yesterday. So at the grocery store where I go to here, they kind of have a lot. They're like all the brands that I like are actually missing since Christmas. They kind of didn't receive any beer. It's like weird. So they had the big bottles, so I took that. Okay, welcome everybody. This is the live Shortwave show. We are Saturday, January 12th, 2019. And of course, this is the Saturday edition. We're going to continue watching and talking about memorabilia from shortwave stations. I got some questions from Jose Luis from Brazil that, following yesterday's show on QSL, had all sorts of little questions concerning shortwave stations, shortwave in general, and I thought they were interesting because, I mean, when somebody has questions, usually it means that a lot of other people have questions too. So I think it's nice to answer the questions live so that we can actually have all of the answers. And I'm sure some of you will pick up some of that information and say, oh, wow, I didn't know about this or that or whatever. Sorry, guys. Still the rest of my cold. So cheers, everybody. So my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. We are here every Fridays, 2000 hours UTC, and every other Saturday at 2000 hours. So that means today we have a show. Next week there's no show. In 2 weeks there's a Saturday show. It will be the VHF UHF one. So that's pretty much how it goes. So I want to say there's a nice chat room. There's nice people. You can chat with them, ask questions. There's no dumb questions. I mean, we all... Even the people that are in the chat room have been doing this for ages. We all had that point where we started. And we knew absolutely nothing about shortwave radio. So I guess, it's very important to understand that there will be a lot of, newbie questions. And it's okay. I mean, we're here to help. And in times of, I think, lower... less young generation that's actually interested in radio and shortwave. Well, if we can actually spark a little interest, spark that little thing, what sparked your interest in radio? It's an interesting thing because what I see is that the interest in radio, it's a mix of different things. It's a mix of what you like in general. It's a mix of all sorts of, because I mean, not everybody is interested in radio, obviously. You probably, like me, have people in your family or friends that are like, wow, you're listening to those weird noises again, they're just annoyed more than anything else. They don't have that magic behind it. And I guess everything that we do in life that we enjoy, well, there's that magic that needs to be there for us to enjoy it. And, Sheldon Harvey often talks about it when we meet for the International Radio Report about how, we might be using, smartphones like this. We might be doing a lot of things, but behind the work of this thing, what a lot of people don't understand is that your smartphone is a radio transceiver. It receives signals and it sends signals, and that's how it works. The internet isn't magical. It doesn't just appear magically through your phone, or when you're streaming something, or when you're talking on the phone. It's radio waves, and we use radio waves every day. I saw somebody on a blog post saying, well, we're using old technologies. We're not using old technologies. We are using a technology that is still here, that is radio, and it is used in different things, including your smartphone or your cell phone, whatever you have. If you have if you have a router and you use a laptop, well, your router is transmitting radio waves. Your laptop is receiving and transmitting radio waves. It's how they connect these invisible radio waves. So radio is everywhere. It's just that today the radio side of it is kind of more obscure. Back in the days, we would listen to the radio, and we would wonder, while listening to the radio, why, it's how come these voices come through radio? And it's interesting because one of the things that I've seen, and I don't know if I'm wrong here, and maybe you guys can comment on this. I was amazed at this technology. I am the guy that always was kind of wondering and just trying to explain to myself how this work. What are radio waves, and how come something I don't see, I don't feel, propagates through the air, and I get this on a box that gives me, noises and sounds and the radio and music. And I have the impression that there's less of a wow factor today. I don't know if it's just me. Does the young generation today do you think the people that are like less than 18 years old today, teenagers or kids, are they more difficult to wow with whatever technology they have in front of them? I sometimes kind of wonder. One of the things I would do a lot with my nephews and my brother would be model rocketry. And I still have, some of the motors here. I have a couple of rockets there that I haven't done that in a long time. And of course, there's the wonder of, wow, you put that little motor in which is kind of gunpowder, if you want, and you're having a little rocket that's going to go up 1,000 or 2,000 feet, come down with a parachute. There's an amazement with that. And when I did that when I was maybe 17 or 18, there will always be a gathering of people in the park looking at it and wondered. A lot of kids wondering, what is that and what's happening? If I do the same thing in the park today, either two things are going to happen. Either somebody's going to call the cops because they'll think some kind of terrorist attack or whatever because there's some kind of rocket in the park, I don't know. Or there's just no one around. And people pass by and they barely look at what's happening. I remember going to the park with a walkie-talkie. and having kids come around and talk about it, and and they would see that I had the better ones, because I had the Radio Shack realistic, like 3-4 watts, multiple channels, where a lot of them had the little cheap ones that you barely talk three streets. But there was a gathering. I would go to the park with a walkie-talkie or with radio technology of some sort, and there would be some kids coming through and saying, "Hey, this is nice," and they would ask questions and be very curious about it. And you do the same thing today. You just look weird, and kids just ignore you. If not ignoring you, they're like, well, today we talk with our cell phones. What's the use in having walkie-talkies around, And it's as if what we realize today, that technology, radio technology, is used everywhere. Nobody thinks about that. Nobody is wondering, hey, you're using radio technology to, with your smartphone. You think that, text message from your girlfriend or whatever happened magically? No. Some packets of data were sent through the air on a radio frequency, decoded with the hardware in the phone, and showing you the text of, it's over, get on with your life, or something. Or I love you, or whatever, It's like interesting. I have the impression that kids today are not wowed like we were when we were young. It's not the same thing. So, sorry guys, I'm trying to remove that little something in my throat. Matambale from Colorado. Hey there. Richard Cook from the UK. Nice to have you here. Elton Byington. Nice to have you on board. K3JWA is the ham call sign. PLF Radio, bonjour et bienvenue de la France. Toujours un plaisir de vous avoir parmi nous. Always nice to have you here, PLF Radio. Cyber Flyer 1, nice to have you here. Jack N9IIF, nice to have you on board. Ray Lyle from snowy southern Illinois. Here it's cold and sunny Montreal. It's really cold today. Matambale says, cork beer, fancy. Yes, it is fancy. Jerry DX, nice to have you on board. William Conlon, nice to have you here from Ireland. Bobby Burgess from Morgan City, Louisiana, nice to have you on board, my friend. Unpopcom, nice to have you here from South Central Pennsylvania. And he's got a Brooklyn Brown Ale. Cheers. Brian Penny, nice to have you here from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Sheldon Harvey from Greenfield Park, Quebec, and working on stories for tomorrow's morning's International Radio Report. And that's going to be a lot of fun, of course. I'll be there tomorrow morning. Always a nice start to a Sunday. I've already, I was saying yesterday how I enjoy doing that because, I just like do everything on my Sunday. And this afternoon, I got a call from a friend saying, hey, tomorrow you're at the radio station, meeting downtown, you want to go brunch? Yeah, of course we're going to go brunch. So we're like 3 or 4 friends now that are going to meet at a restaurant tomorrow. We're going to go brunch after the CKUT International Radio Report show. We'll, hang out downtown at, what's nice, if it's cold, is that downtown Montreal here, we have a underground, it's almost an underground city. So you go downtown and you can actually shop and walk for hours without ever going outside. It's all underground. It's just amazing what we have here. So if it's too cold for outside, we'll go inside and we'll just, wander around, look at the stuff that we can't afford, and just, hang out. And what we usually do around 5 p.m.-ish, we end up at the bar, have a few beers for the night, and just a great Sunday. So it's pretty much shaping up that it's going to be like that tomorrow. What else do we have? Like Sheldon Harvey says, if it doesn't have a wire attached, it's wireless. And wireless is another world of radio. How a radio signal travels from point A to point B basically hasn't changed since Marconi's days. Absolutely. The only thing that's changed from the early time, from earlier to today, is the frequency ranges we actually are using these on. Marconi's time, it was low frequencies because we didn't have the electronics needed to, have high frequency oscillators. But as the technology advanced, and as we were able to get higher in frequency, well, I'm always amazed when I think about, for example, this is a GSM connected LTE smartphone. So this thing sends and receives around 1.9 gigahertz, 1,900 megahertz. So this is ultra high frequencies. It's really, really high. And there's higher than that. I mean, you have routers are at 2,400 megahertz. They have channels there. All sorts of things like that. It's just crazy. Kevin J says, here is something, first I'm going to say hi. Here's something to blow minds on cell phones. You can listen on a smartphone to online stations continuous. Yeah, absolutely. I remember the first time I had a smartphone. Because I had, of course, we all had, if you have a cell phone for a while, you all probably started like me with a little. I remember I had my first was a Nokia, a little black Nokia. I don't remember the model number. I think I still have it here somewhere hanging. Then I had that little blue Nokia that I dropped probably a million times and it never broke. Every part would fly apart. I would drop it on the sidewalk and it would break apart in a million pieces. You'd put the pieces back and it still works. You drop this on the sidewalk and you're having a heart attack because you're going to wonder if the screen is cracked or not. So basically, when I had my first smartphone that had apps, well, one of the first things I found truly amazing was streaming stuff from the internet wirelessly. I remember I would take some bike rides sometimes. I would wear a shirt with a pocket. I would put my phone in the shirt pocket and I would let it stream, NPR, or I would let it stream the World Radio Network and listen to, some radio stations with an app. And I remember being wowed at, wow, I'm streaming stuff from the internet while I'm riding a bike around town. Isn't that just amazing? John stumbled on you house. Nice to have you here. Matambali says it's still magical after all these years. So, absolutely. JD, nice to have you here, says I have one QSL card out, my first one this year from Cuba. Congratulations. This is cool. And I hope it's going to spark that interest and you're like, oh, I want more. I want more station to QSLs now. John Trigger, nice to have you here. I'm definitely surprised and fascinated by the lack of understanding of the younger generation of radio or old technologies. And the problem is it's not old. It's still an actual technology. It's old because radio's been something that's more than 100 years old now. But yet, it's still something used, and it's used more than ever today. It's used more than ever today. Matambali says, whoops, it says stop. Too many people have lost their sense of wonder. Yeah, I don't know. There's something weird. Are people today too preoccupied with what's happening in their own lives and what's happening in their daily routine to not have that time to wow anymore? I sometimes wonder, as life come to a point where we're just trying to live our lives and have the best job possible, and there's so many things happening, and everything is more expensive. Is it that people are now so preoccupied with just living their lives that wow side is gone? I don't know. Tim, nice to have you here. Do you listen to vinyl? So what do you consider a good deck in Canada? I've got a Technics here, an old one from like 20, well, 20, or 2019. No, it's almost 30 years ago now. And I do have some vinyl records, but I used to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and I did throw some away when I moved here. I still have a lot of them here, but I haven't listened to. The problem here is that my only place that I can play vinyl records is on my sound system that's right behind here and from the camera. It's 100 watts per channel, and it has these big speakers. Problem is, it's amazing sound, but in the apartment where I live here, if I turn that on, even at a low volume, every neighbor is going to come knocking on my door saying, well, you're making too much noise. So I have a sound system that's basically been unused for 20 years right here. I maybe listened to a record 15 years ago last time on that thing. It's actually full of dust when I look at it right now. And it's sad. I would like to, I could, of course, put earphones. I probably have a good pair of earphones somewhere and listen with earphones. But, but I haven't, I wouldn't be able to say what would be a good turntable today or whatever. Page Master, nice to have you on board. It says, my former VOTech instructor said a radio is a radio regardless if it is analog, digital, old or new technology. Even a microwave oven is a radio, it generates a frequency. Absolutely. Actually, the other day, I was thinking about that. I was actually heating up something in the microwave, and I was looking at the sticker, the printing on top, and the one I have here is about a year old. And it's 1100 watts. And it came to mind suddenly that, wow, I've got a 1 kilowatt transmitter in my home, the microwave oven. Because let's face it, it's 1100 watts. It's a 1 kilowatt transmitter that's heating up food. It's just funny when you think about it. Bob Geist, nice to have you here. N2DET in Long Beach, New York. Beacon Almaj, nice to have you here from Alberta. Pretty cool. Somebody's calling me from I don't know where. I had that number the other day, and I don't know who that is. So anyways, Ray Lyle says, 1976, I was 9, listened to a lot of late night medium wave and FM. Then I had a CB base, I had it. Then in 1983, started shortwave listening. Still love shortwave today as much as I did the first time I discovered it. Fanny Xanakis, nice to have you here. Radio is a radio, especially when one likes to listen to things one doesn't understand, like beacons and such. Yep, absolutely. And Page Master from Moore, Oklahoma. Bonjour. Man Radio DXer, nice to have you here, and thank you so much for that software that you recommended yesterday. The man, I forgot the name. The grid tracker. It's fun. I was listening to some FT8 and grid tracker, which is a piece of software that you add on top of WSJTX. When you decode the FT8 amateur radio stations, you actually have these little dots that show up on a world map telling you from where you're listening or where you're receiving the signals. And it's really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. And I mean, it is more interactive and fun because instead of having just call signs that go through your face constantly, now you got little dots on the world map, and you're like, oh. And I listened for like an hour and a half this morning on this computer, and I was like, oh, look at that, a station from South Africa. Oh, look at that, a station from Spain. Oh, another one from Italy. Oh, another one from France. And of course, tons of them from all over the U.S. and the west coast of Canada. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. No need to, not even a need to search for anything. And if you hover your mouse pointer over the little dots, it tells you the call sign and the grid locator and all of that. So grid tracker, if you do receive FT8 or JT65, I believe it works with many modes. Just download grid tracker and install that and run it at the same time as you're running, for example, WSJTX. And what I actually did this morning is I just put it full screen world map, and I let it just put the little dots of everything I was listening on FT8. Just amazing. Thank you, Mad Radio DX. I didn't know about that software. Really, really nice. So it says, just had a power outage last almost 10 minutes. Could not do any DXing as it happened when eating my dinner. Yes, tomorrow, CKUT, the International Radio Report tomorrow. That will be at on CKUT 90.3 FM, CKUT.ca. If you want to stream it live, there's the archive of the International Radio Report. That's 15:30 UTC. With me, with Sheldon, me, David. Always a fun show. Goes by so fast. Ronald Hester, nice to have you here. Live in Mountain, North Carolina, elevation 2,000 feet, snowing at this time. Pretty cool. Nick Cavendo from Romania. I'm Mapper. Moonlight and vodka takes me away. Midnight in Moscow is sunshine in LA. Yes, in the good old USA. Cool. Nice to have you on board from Moscow, my friend. Every time somebody talks about midnight in Moscow, it always reminds me of that Moscow Nights or whatever, that song that Radio Moscow would play before the hour. That always brings me back a long time. Cyberflyer 1, nice to have you here. PLF Radio says, 5G smartphone, wow. Will go higher in frequency than 4G. I can't remember which range. Yeah, I know that they have different ranges that they're talking about. There's also some, but I know that there's some 5G being tested at 600 megahertz. Some of the old TV channels that we used to have when TV was analog. So kind of interesting. Joe Sombrano asks, the younger people laughs when see me shortwave videos and my receivers, but they say I want to be at your side when the zombie invasion starts. Yeah, when the zombie invasion starts, they'll all be happy to have guys like us, because we'll be the one understanding how to communicate with all the zombies out there. J. Fortin, hello, nice to have you here from New Hampshire. Jerome's too, nice to have you here. Paulo's Records, nice to have you on board from London. Radioactive, nice to have you here, my friend. What else do we have? Mickey Delmar says, bring that 100-watt system to the CIDX barbecue and we will rock Greenfield Park. Oh, I can bet you, man. It sounds absolutely fantastic. I can tell you that. When I bought that system, that was... A lot of us go through the same phase. I mean, music is a major part of my life. I can't think of a world without music. And my parents had a Sears, stereo system with a pickup, which was, we call that a pickup here. I don't know if that is what you guys call it also, but it's actually a turntable. And that turntable that had that little arm, so you could put like 3 or 4 records, put the little arm, and it would like drop one after the other while we were listening to him. Anyways, it was a Sears system, and it sounded absolutely awful when I think about it. But it was what I listened to music through my teenage years. And when I got my first job, the first thing I wanted was, okay, and that's 1989, 1990. I think it's 1990. I finally had the money to purchase my own sound system. And I wanted to have the craze at the time, a CD player, because that was the new thing. We would all listen to CDs. And I remember I went to the store with my dad. And I went through and I looked at different systems, and I bought the one that I have here, which is a studio standard model by Fisher. And I remember it cost me $2,500. 100-watt amplifier with tuner, with equalizer, with a CD player, with the turntable, and a cassette deck. And that $2,500 thing came home with 100 watts per channel. Where I lived there weren't anybody around much. So, in the daytime, often, when my parents were gone, and in the daytime, everybody was gone and worked. So there was nobody in the apartment complex where I was living back then. So I can tell you, every day that I was home in the afternoons, parents are gone, nobody in the house, I would pump up that volume really high, and I mean, it sounds absolutely superb. And I remember my first CD that I ever bought in my life was the Brothers in Arms CD from Dire Straits, because it was one of the only CDs back then that was DDD, digital. And I went out, I bought 2 CDs that day. I bought a Robert Plant CD, and I bought the Dire Straits Brothers in Arms CD, because they were all saying that the sound quality of that album was amazing. And it was truly amazing. But times have changed, and here I can't really use it. Vancouver Island DXer, nice to have you here. Says, during yesterday's show, I got my SDR working on a new computer, so today's goal is to get the accessory scheduling programs working with Windows 10. Nice to have you here, Brian, VE7AUL. Kevin says, what are folks' favorite SDR online websites to listen to? Well, I go to sdr.hu because there's just so many SDRs on that list. I just go to sdr.hu most of the time. I used to use global tuners a lot. Mandrill DXer, no problem, Jill. I also uploaded a video of me today decoding 20-meter FT8 signals with Grid Tracker. Yeah, I wanted to do the same also. Pretty cool. Really, really nice tool. I can tell you that. Really, really nice tool. Oh, PSK Reporter. I didn't know that one, so I'll check that out. PSK Reporter. Can you, Radioactive, send me an email with PSK Reporter so I can remember? Just send it to officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. Ray Lyle, why does ICOM and other radio makers block the cell phone frequency band, but most SDRs don't? That's always been weird to me. It all has to do probably with the certification that these things are going through. Technically, because, for example, my SDR play has continuous frequency coverage, my RSP1A. Technically, to be legal, I believe it should have the old cell analog band blocked and all of that. I am wondering if it's not kind of a tricked issue sometimes. The fact that it's a device that plugs to a computer. Maybe they are able to kind of go, around the regulations because they sell it probably as a computer device and not a radio. I think that might be one of the reasons it's happening. And you know what? It's dumb because today there's really no reasons to block any of those frequencies anymore. I mean, there's no more analog stuff almost to listen to anyways. Radioactive, what are you talking about on this issue of the International Radio Report? Well, it's just the show tomorrow, the International Radio Report on CKUT. Nothing special. And by the way, if you guys want to try it tonight, 0130 UTC, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. It's supposed to play the last Sunday's International Radio Report. It's supposed to play on WINB on 9265 kilohertz. So 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 UTC. Yeah, well, it's only in the U.S. that radios are required. Like my ICOM isn't blocked. It's called the government export. So, because here in Canada we don't have to, we don't have to, we don't have any rules against what frequency ranges to listen to. I can get the unlocked version of any radio. But technically in the United States, you're not allowed to. And I'm pretty sure there must be a way. I wouldn't be surprised that, for example, the SDR Play devices aren't blocked simply because they are sold as computer devices more than radio devices. So they kind of avoid the regulations. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, Jerry, the signals from space. Hey, Callum, too. Nice to have you on board, my friend. Madame Bali says, back in the day, cell was analog, and so anything that tuned those areas was then permitted by the FCC. Here in Canada, they met up and they were thinking about that. What they do, what should they do about, scan, because we all had that craze. There was a radio scanner craze in the late 80s, early 90s. Everybody that liked radio wanted to have a scanner and listen to their neighbors on their phones and stuff like that. And here in Canada, what they did is they met up and they decided to simply no blocking of any frequency range. But they made rules. You can't, and if I hear a conversation on a phone, I can't, and I'm not allowed to, give the details of what they said and all of that. I can say there was a phone conversation in that range, but I can't say what it had as information in it. So you got to keep it for yourself. Emad Redu DXer, yeah, Fisher is actually absolutely was an amazing brand. My sound system is amazing, and I mean it's been the only thing that after 30 years, there's only two things broke, which is kind of normal a little bit. The CD player, because it played thousands of discs, and I mean it eventually wore out, and my cassette deck, actually what happens is because I didn't use it in a very long time, the like the rubber straps or bands that are supposed to have everything rolling are kind of worn out. But okay, Matambali says my first CD too. Yeah, it was one of the first ones, and I remember it was recommended if you had a CD player. That was one of the albums to buy at the time. Ray Lyle says I still have a big record album collection and a rack stereo system. That's pretty much like that here. It's a rack stereo system that I have there. You know what? I had talked about it maybe a year ago, and I would be curious to plug it back in and check out the performance of the AM/FM tuner in that amplifier. It's something that I should do because I mean, I've almost never listened to radio on that thing. It was to listen to CDs and stuff. Yeah, I had a video for money and for nothing. The first one that was kind of computerized animations. Evan Blancy, nice to have you here from Oakland, California. Artist Alley Crafter's Kitchen, nice to have you on board. And just finished setting up a pair of JBL speakers. Cool. His other hobby. Thank you, Radioactive. Bob T, nice to have you on board from Ohio. J. Fontaine says, what's the new favorite inexpensive SDR? I have a 2-year-old RTL SDR. Has there been a better inexpensive one released? If you count on because pretty much all the cheap SDRs are all still using the same RTL chip, so there's really not been much advancement about that side of it. Basically, what you will have that is a little better is the combination of the RTL SDR and and how the interaction with up converters for shortwave and stuff like that, like the Soft 66 and so. But there's in 2 years the only other I would say the only other thing that you can do to get better is have a better SDR, and things like the RSP 1A, for example, which is an SDR play software defined radio that's just amazing, and not much more than $100. You're getting something that is way more interesting and performance that is a million times better than the RTL SDR itself. Page Master, I'd like to ask a series of questions regarding how to get the FLDG to work with RTL SDR with the HD SDR software. The email is officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com, Page Master. Officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. Hey David, nice to have you here. And from Barcelona, Spain. I did change one little thing about the audio in the volume settings. I haven't changed any equalization thing, but I did change the level of audio. Maybe that changed also kind of the quality of the audio. That's not impossible. It's not impossible. But RSP SDR Play RSP 1A is an amazing device. I can tell you that. But if you look at really inexpensive, the RTL SDR is still Glenn T. Jill, do you have any idea if you ordered a radio from Canada and live in the US, would it be unlocked, or do they have radios that are blocked that they send to places out of Canada? Just curious. So, hey Sheldon, the Reflex. And actually the Reflex is for me the worst Duran Duran song ever. It's so much what I don't want to listen to. And I will stop talking about Duran Duran or Sheldon will be going. I'll see that number count go down by 1. But I did have Duran Duran CDs, absolutely. So, Glenn, technically, because of the regulations, a Canadian store should not be sending an unblocked version of a radio to the US. Now, some do, and some did, but they were always mentioning, look, we'll send it, but we can't guarantee you'll get it. And if it goes through without being checked at the border, if customs doesn't check it out, you might have it. And some people have gotten some of these radios because customs just let it go through. But if customs checks it carefully, then they will see that it's unlocked and they will send it back to the store. You're not going to get it. But technically, even Canadian stores, I believe, should not be sending unlocked versions of radios to the US. Evlassi says still has his 8-track system in Commodore. I got an 8-track amplifier with an 8-track cassette slot in all the junk that I got there that apparently still works. I just don't have any 8-track cassettes to try it on. But it's an old Pioneer from the 70s. belonged to one of my uncles that died of cancer. I was like 10 years old when it happened. And we had the job of clearing out his apartment when he died. And I have some vague souvenir of that moment, maybe even younger than that. I say 10 years old, I would say maybe even 8 or 9. And I have some vague souvenirs of that moment, but I remember we brought home a Pioneer amplifier that had that 8-track cassette slot. Actually was used for a while when I listened to my first music, which was my brother's music, because I didn't have any music. I listened to Some Girls, the album Some Girls by the Rolling Stones on 8-track cassette. Manfred Man Heard Man with the album Solar Fire on 8-track cassette. I listened to Pink Floyd Wish You Were Here album on 8-track cassette on that amplifier. And I mean, it was kind of eerie because it had, 8-track cassettes at 4 numbers, one track 1, 2, 3, and 4. And on that radio, they were different colors, and the way that they were lighted in the dark, it looked weird. And so that was my first entry into 8-track cassettes. And it's funny to, when I think about it, it's like, wow, I listened to, Wish You Were Here album from Pink Floyd on 8-track cassette. It was my entry into the world of Pink Floyd. I remember being 10 or 11, and I think I listened to that album at least 100 times at that time. I just loved it, and I would listen to it from A to Z, all of it, all the time. And it's funny because the reed head was slightly misaligned. So when you were listening to quiet moments in the songs, I was actually hearing another track, but playing backwards in the distance. It was just weird. Neil Toombs, nice to have you on board. Just to let you know, I'm lurking. M0CJM, just making HF contacts on 40 meters. Wow, this is cool. What frequency you're on? Are you on SSB? Maybe we can try 40 meters here and see if we can hear M0CJM go through. What else do we have? David says, talking about hi-fi today, a family member came home to give me some unused components. Tape decks, amplifiers, speakers. Wow. And you know what's the weirdest thing, guys? The weirdest thing is that in audio, we have regressed. We have less quality audio today when we stream stuff with this, for example. And it's just weird because we went to this period of time where better quality sound was what we wanted. Suddenly came CD, and then all hell broke loose because it started having the computerized compressed MP3s that sounded okay, but a 128 kilobytes per second MP3 that a lot of people were using actually was degrading the audio of what you were listening to. And even today, the audio you listen to on streaming services is often not as good as you could have on, a hi-fi system. So we kind of went down in quality a little bit. Yeah, there's these really big lossless audiophile stuff, but it's just, a lot of what we listen to today is actually not as good in audio quality as before. So using with the Aminup G410, you would have probably an up in your quality of SDRs if with an SDR player, SP1A, for example. Richard, propagation seemed to be not too bad, but not as good. You know what? I was before I tuned. I started the show. I was trying a 15580 Voice of America from Botswana. It wasn't coming as good as yesterday, so it seems to have degraded a little bit. Brett Wayne from Salamanca, New York, KC2 and XP. Nice to have you here. 2100 UT. There's going to be HM01 on 6180. Jerry X, which SDR play do you have? The RSP1A. Can you access the radio from another computer online? You can put it online if you want. Yes, there's a way to put it online if you want. And I will actually be putting it on Global Tuners sometime this week. I will be checking that out. And you can. There are ways to feed it online if you want. Carl Sanson, nice to have you here from Staten Island. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Man. What else do we have? Glenn says, I did not know they checked them before. Yeah, they do check them. If you buy a unlocked version of a radio, there's a good chance it's not going to make it to your home. So, you know. Well, it depends, Brett Wayne. Because there's two ways of unlocking radios. And one is the easy way. You know, like the old scanners at the time, you just chop this little jumper here or that diode over here and you got full range. When they made the requirements for the regulations for blocked radios, they were aware that people could modify them. So the regulations in the United States for having locked radios required that these were not easily unlocked. So what that means is that a lot of receivers today that are blocked at the CPU level, at the processor level, meaning there's nothing you can do about it on a lot of radios. So it depends on the radio you're using, Brett. Not all radios are easy to unblock. Those that are, it's cool, but a lot of them are not easy to unlock. Or totally impossible to unlock even. Yeah, I need to check that out. You know what? I'm going to check that out. I would be kind of, just for the hell of it, you know, bringing that Pioneer amplifier has not been powered on. Okay, let's see. We're in 2019. I would say it has not been powered on for at least 35 years. I would say 35 years is roughly the last time that thing actually worked. And I mean, it worked fine. So it's supposed to still work fine, I guess. But it's been unused for at least 35 years. I mean, I haven't plugged that thing in a wall socket. It actually, you guys are making me wonder if, you know, tonight, just for the fun of it, I shouldn't try to find it if it's easy to access and just plug it into one of my speakers here and see if it just, you know, tune around the radio, because it has an AM/FM tuner in it, just for the fun of it. Could be interesting. And it'd be so weird to power on an old amplifier from that amplifier was from the 70s. I believe my uncle had purchased that amplifier like in 75 or 74. So it's crazy. Neil Toombs, there's a pilot on 7110 single sideband trying to break through. Let's check out 7110. Anything here? I've got some Morse code. I got Morse code on 7110 here. David says, the sound of those 8 tracks recorded on my Pioneer deck is better than expected, not a bad technology. There was a lot of hiss, you know. Neil to himself, sound quality doesn't mean jack nowadays. It's convenience nowadays. It's more important than quality. Absolutely, Neil. Nick Camadot says, I heard people saying 320 kilobits per second wave quality, but that's not true. Wave is 4 times higher. And the real problem is 95% of people are listening to poor systems. And a lot of people, you know, there's so much misunderstanding of the. I just heard a ham call, finished by hotel. I remember a guy that I knew that I worked with was telling me, oh, you know, I take those audio files and make them better. And I said, what do you mean make them better? Oh, I take those 128 kilobits per second audio files and I boost them up to 320. And I said, it doesn't matter. If you take a 192 or a 128 kilobits per second file and just up the quality to 320, well, it's just keeping the quality of the 128 and making the file bigger. It's not making the quality better. And he was like, no, it makes the quality better. You can hear it. It's like, no, okay, whatever you believe. And a lot of those files and a lot of the ripped audio from CDs, because let's face it, for a long time, a lot of people were listening to ripped CDs and they were putting them in MP3s. MP3 was convenient because it was a small file. Wave was not convenient because it was a huge file, and basically the quality went down, you know. Andrew the Extra says, remember, it's not always quality but quantity. Yeah, absolutely. Betamax versus VHS, yeah, absolutely. But you know, there's so many things, and it's all about how things are happening. EAMs, yeah, on 15016. I heard one earlier. Let's try 15016 just for the fun of it. Upper sideband. We'll see if we hear any emergency action messages from the U.S. Air Force. What else do we have? Hey, Sakura.ex. Nice to have you on board from Japan. Pretty cool. Glenn says, with the quality of the sound today goes with the quality of the music. You don't lose a lot. Oh, man. Rita Moran. Hey. Jan Alberto. Nice to have you here. As you were Windows 10 official before, do you know if Microsoft will fix sound distortion in Windows 10? Technically, it's the sound driver that does that. What you could do is look online. There are some equalizer software that you can actually install to soften up if you find that the audio quality is not good. David says, completely agree, sound quality has decreased with all the compression that can be applied to the digital audio. Even stereo is being lost. Few phones have stereo speakers. Absolutely. Mine does. The S9 Plus is cool because there's the speaker at the bottom and there's a speaker at the top of the phone. So if you hold it, you listen to music like this and hold it, or video, it actually has the stereo effect. You can actually hear it, which is kind of nice. Sakura is going to take an exam for Indonesian language. Wow. Radioactive, yeah, no problem. Gas leak, that's not good. Listening to a shortwave radio through a stereo system is wild. It's not stereo, but the sound coming out of big speakers is cool. That you know, oh man, if I would use, you know, like the output of my radio and put it in my 100-watt amplifier. Oh man. J14. Looking at prices on NRCR Play, cannot find RSP1A. I have an idea of where to buy in the States. You can buy it from Ham Radio Outlet, HRO, Ham Radio Outlet. You should have it. Hiltum says, and 9LY1JM, Banana Island, Sierra Leone. Wow, that's okay. I know why there's a pilot. It's like a very, very rare DX. Unfortunately, I hear some of the pilot stations calling, but I'm not hearing the station from there. PLF Radio 6180, the HM01. I've got nothing at all. Not even a little bit of a signal right now. Glenn says it might blow up or blow some diodes when you plug it in after not being plugged in for that long. I had an old CB base, it started to smoke after being unused for 10 years. Yeah, I don't know, but it's like, 35 years old. Now I want to plug it in. Yeah, that's the only thing, Ray Lyle. That's probably the negative side of the RSP1A that I would say is when I want to listen to VHF, I gotta disconnect my sloper and plug in my mobile vertical for VHF UHF. That is the sad part of it. But the more expensive RSP Duo, I believe, has 2 connectors. So a few high-end 8-track decks had Dolby noise reduction. Yeah, I had Dolby noise reduction on one of my Walkman, a Sanyo Walkman. Power 93.5, your dance nation, says my antenna is buried in the snow right now, but you might hear my station on 6925 Dance Radio International 6925. Been heard in your area many times. Logged on HF Underground. Cool. Let's check that out. 6925 and see if we hear something. Anything here? Nothing here right now. See if I can. Yep, I've got nothing right now, my friend. But propagation doesn't seem to be all it could be today, actually. But we'll keep an eye. And thanks for reporting the pirate station. Pretty cool. Mike Hanna 261, you should plug it in with us here live. The problem is I don't know if it's easy to get out, and even though it would get out, I don't even know if I'd be able to. I need to plug an external speaker on it. It's kind of a complex situation, I can tell you that. So it would be a little complicated. But if I do get it out, I'll put it here with a working setup so you guys can see it. Yeah, I know, Matambali. Actually, I need a switch now because I have too many radios. And I have to be able to switch the antennas among different radios and actually split all the antennas with all the radios that I've got now. So 12 watts, wow, that is low power. But you never know, sometimes just 12 watts makes it really far. Hey, Mike DX, nice to have you on board. So pretty cool. So Calvin, nice to have you on board. Says I have the RSP2 Pro gel, works great, but I haven't used it in ages. I'm not sure, but I think it's possible to have the HF and VHF antennas plugged in at the same time. Do you have any idea? Well, apart from having it with a antenna switch, there's no real way to have both of them together. Yeah, but the Soft 66, the thing is, Calvin, the Soft 66 has two antenna inputs. It has a VHF antenna input and an HF antenna input. So you could plug both antennas and keep them plugged in at the same time. The RSP1A that I have here, you have one in only one connector. So unless you have a antenna switch for the VHF and the HF portion, you can't have both together, because they'll interact. If you have both together, there'll be an interaction between the two antennas. It's gonna kind of change everything. So right now, what I do is I just unscrew the antenna and and screw the VHF one when I do that. So So okay. Yesterday we talked about QSL cards. I got a little bit of stuff that I want to show you again today. One that I stumbled across that's very nice. In the time when, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but in the times when China Radio International wanted to have official monitors. So there was a time in the early 2000s, somewhere like 2005, when China Radio started pumping up that signal everywhere. They wanted to have official monitors around the world. And an official monitor had to send a certain amount of reception reports every week to let them know that they were heard. In exchange for that, they would send you all sorts of gifts. And I just want to show you guys. So this is, as I was the official monitor for maybe a year, so they sent me this, which are the little. So one is broken, was broken by the in the mail, but these little hand-painted bottles that you see here, which are very, very nice. This is a nice little box, actually. And I actually saw some of those in the Chinese market here, and the equivalent of a little box like this was like $75. Sorry, guys. So that was one of the gifts that I got. I got so many gifts from them, from China Radio, with these little bottles. It was just so cool to have that. I had a scarf. I think I still have it here. I have a box with all the gear for if you're a tennis player and you have all the little cuffs for the hands and all the stuff, if the headbands and everything. Just kind of cool. I had so many things. And what happened is my dad is a maniac of everything Chinese. He's always been. For some reason, he's fascinated with everything that's Chinese. So when I was young, we had a lot of Chinese stuff, including some weird Chinese food, which was not always a very good idea. But when I moved here, I had a lot of stuff. And all the stuff that they were sending me was kind of cool. But at the same time, I was like, man, what am I going to do and where am I going to put all of this? So my dad one day came over and around 2007 or 8. And I said, hey, you like Chinese stuff? I got some cool Chinese stuff for you. And I probably gave him like 80% of everything that I had received that year from China Radio. The only thing I kept was those bottles and that CRI jacket that I still have here. The blue jacket that some of you have seen me wear. China Radio International jacket, which is extra large and it barely fits my size. So kind of tells you that some Chinese people are not very big. So, but I had a lot of those little gifts, and that's another aspect that we didn't talk about yesterday. When you write a station, some of them sometimes have little gifts, pennants, calendars, stickers, pens, all sorts of things. And remember one thing, like I said yesterday, if you write to a station, they don't owe you anything ever. And that's very important to understand, because you can't go mad. For example, if you write China Radio International and you go mad because you don't have the little bottles that I got here, don't go crazy. It's they're not going to give things like that to everybody, and they don't have necessarily, and a lot of stations actually don't have anything to give out. So one of the last week I was listening to Ask WWCR, and they talked about stuff they had to give away, and they actually were talking about the fact that because somebody had sent in a reception report, and they were talking about the fact that he was asking for pennants and stickers, and WWCR, the guy at WWCR said, well, we don't have anything. We used to have stickers, we don't have any more to give out. So there's like a lot of stations don't have a budget for that. And one thing, if you write for a QSL card, don't cheat, because they can see you cheat sometimes. At that broadcast of Ask WWCR, they were mentioning how they received a reception report, and the programs were okay. They could, see that the programs, it was okay, but the time and the frequency did not work. So they kind of understood that the guy listened to a podcast on the internet and tried to do a reception report without actually listening to the station. And they kind of understood that it was kind of a cheat that happened there, and that the guy didn't really listen to Shortwave. So, be careful. Don't do things like that. And if you do write to a station, like I said, I don't think it's wrong to use an online SDR, even though I would not give the same value to a QSL card from, having the reception here at home on my radio. For me, that's the best. But using an online software-defined receiver like on the ASDR.HU, I don't think it's a bad thing if it's a broadcast you just can't hear at home. But let them know that you were listening through an online receiver and where it's located, so that they understand that their signal was reaching that area but not where you live. I don't think it's cheating to do so, as long, because that's the little thing here, as long as you can't at all hear it where you live. Because if you can listen to a station where you live, and the only reason you're using an SDR is to have a better signal for that reception report, I kind of call that cheating. Because I kind of call that you're trying to get your QSL card earlier because you're going to get a better signal there, when if you're just patient, you'll eventually get that station at home. So that reminds me of Mickey Delbange yesterday that sent that recording of Radio Thailand. Wow, I haven't heard it that good in ages here, and I mean, man, 13745 is probably the best bet, but it will be a good bet in February, late February, in most of March, until they change that frequency again. 13745 should be okay in North America at 0-100. So, anyways, you could get all sorts of things from stations, but you got to be patient. And you gotta, I always say it, if you do write to stations for stuff, don't be what I call a QSL hog. Don't just ask for what you want and not care about the rest. Take the time to let them know what you like or what you don't like of their programs. Take the time to put details of how many times you listen to their programs in a week, a month, or whatever. That they want to know. Today's stations have less of an interest in knowing the quality of the signal. Because there's a lot of online monitoring that they can check, and they know where or not they're heard. Of course, it is still important for a lot of stations to learn and know what where they are heard and where they're received or not. But one of the things for sure is that be polite and let them, give them details of a lot more than just you wanting something from them. That's not the good thing to do. That's for sure. Sorry. Matam Bali, too many radios. I hate to disagree. No, I meant too many radios for one antenna. Not too many radios in the fact that there's too many radios here. That's not the same. Yeah, that's the thing, Calvin. Here on the RSP1A, there's only one antenna. SL channel, nice to have you here. Fanny Zinakis, any nice stations broadcasting from over there in Sri Lanka? Well, there's the Sri Lanka relay station where you can hear like Voice of America and many stations. I believe the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation is still on shortwave. Let me just go here and check out Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka Broadcasting shortwave. So the let me just check. I haven't, So Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, SLBC, is very interesting because I love it. I just Googled Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, and Google put me the research results, and the first one, slbc.lk, says, and Google put a little mention saying this website might have been hacked. Okay, really? Okay, this is weird. So, are they still on shortwave? I guess. Let me just check it out. Services. I have not had news of any Sri Lanka whatever in a while, but Sri Lanka Broadcasting, do they still have shortwave? Okay, listen live. National Service, Radio Sri Lanka. You can listen. Links. I don't know if there's a schedule or anything. Anybody know if Sri Lanka is still on shortwave? I am wondering if they still are. And if I get a virus on my computer, I'll know that we've just been, hacked by the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. SLBC shortwave schedule. So, anything recent? Okay, shortwave frequency schedule. For what's that age? No, I don't want to have. Okay, here they are. It seems that they might not be on any station from. Okay, let me just check it out here. Sri Lanka. Do they still have? I think they don't have a shortwave station or a shortwave outlet anymore. It seems like they might not have a shortwave outlet anymore. Anybody knows? That's interesting. But there's the relay station, I believe, that still works. David says, I recently bought an MFJ 17044 4-port switch with ESD surge protector. Needed exactly. I have exactly 4 radios on my shack table now. I need to check that out. Absolutely, that's a good. I'm going to check it out. I need one for sure. Nigel Almaj is receiving Radio New Zealand on 13840. Let's just try it out. A curiosity here. 13840. Oops. 13840. There's a very slight signal, but it's very, very weak. It's in the noise here. But there's definitely a little something in the noise. Oh yeah, the N connector for VHF, UHF, David, absolutely. Gordon Threadwell, nice to have you here. VE6 GPT, Happy New Year. Nice to have you on board, my friend Gordon. Ray Lyle says, a QSL is the very last thing I ask about, if I ask at all. I'm more concerned with them knowing we still listen to, so they stay on shortwave. And that's very important also, by the way. Sorry guys, I'm really got a little bit of a problem here. So there's a lot of that going on, that we got to understand that in times where shortwave stations are sometimes leaving the air, writing to them to let them know that they are heard is a very, very important thing. And if you guys enjoy shortwave and enjoy and like the fact that shortwave stations are still there, that's one of the first things you need to do, is write to them. Let them know you are listening to them. It's very important. Very, very important. I don't always ask for a QSL. I often write just to let them know that I listen to. But if I do ask for a QSL, I'll be extra nice and give more details of what I like of their broadcast, and maybe put comments. You know, sometimes that really is something that you enjoy, is if you can comment on something you actually heard on the show, on one of their shows, and give your opinion of whatever that you heard. That is something they love, because not only do you tell them you listen in, but you actually can prove you listened in because you have comments on some of the topics that they talk about, for example. Power. Well, let me just go to the order. PageMaster says, I record radio stations. Is there a program to where I can transcribe the audio into text form? I ask because I like to send them a proper reception report regarding the content of what I heard. You know, there's a lot of audio to text translation programs out there. But the problem is, and especially if it's noisy, because it's a shortwave station or radio station that has noise around it, you won't be very successful in that translation. And you'll be almost better off writing it by hand, because it's going to miss out on so many of the words in there. Power 93.5, I sometimes have heard laser hobbyists very, very weakly here in Montreal. William Conlan, nice to have you on board from South Ireland. Nice to have you here. Nice to have you here. So, Mickey says, SLBC heard here last date of reception, October 21st, 2018, 1710, 1730 on 11750. Some interference from Kodar, overland radar or radio event at Cuba. Let me just check the, 11, okay. We're going to go and check, just out of curiosity. So you said 11750, are they still registered? I just want to check the EIBI list here. 11750. Yeah, SLBC City FM, Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. It's supposed to be there from 1630 to 1830 UTC. So CLN. Let me just check CLN. And there's a lot of relays also. You know, there's a lot of relays that are from. Well, yeah, there's a lot of relays that actually are from Sri Lanka. So you can hear probably Voice of America out of Sri Lanka. Adventist World Radio is relayed from Sri Lanka. What do we have here? Yeah, a lot of relays of Adventist World Radio from Sri Lanka. I remember there was some from Voice of America, but I don't remember if they still use it. Well, Adventist World Radio is renting a lot of time on the Sri Lanka relays. 11905. Here it goes. 11905 from 030 to 0100 and 0115 to 0230 also. Sri Lanka Broadcasting. And HI, which is probably Hindi, I would guess. 11835, 17 to 1800, Sri Lanka Broadcasting in Tamil. Yeah, there's definitely some, 9720 in from 1115 to 1200. China Radio International, no, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's Target. Okay. So yeah, there's some definitely some stations. So Sri Lanka is still in the EIBI space list of frequencies, at least. Take care, PLF Radio. Hey, Fastload. Nice to have you on board. Mickey says SLBC was in a language I believe was Sinhala. Okay, kind of interesting. Radio Nut, nice to have you on board. Yeah, 13845, sorry, is often very, very strong. It makes it difficult to get New Zealand on 13840. 13870. You got a station on 13870? Do I have one here? There's something. Yeah, I see a little something here, but it's very weak. It's very, very weak, 13870. And you say, not listed on the EIBI. Oh no, the one I'm hearing here is radio teletype. It's not even a station. It's not even a station. So, you know, apart from that, I got the experimental stuff on 13560. There's probably, I don't know if there's a contest. There's a lot of Morse code here. There's even some station calling on 14225. I heard, I believe, Victor Echo 2. 20 meters seems to be open right now. There's a few stations on 20 meters. Station making contacts on 14242. Oh, you got the M08 radio net on 8097. I've heard it before a while ago. Oh, you fixed the R5000 finally, Fast Load? It seems to work. Bob T says, I emailed Swiss Radio International with a reception report shortly before they left Shortwave. It was really cool to receive a response from them. Printed out their correspondence and still have it. Cool. That's nice. Orders out of crafters. Eastern European Soviet bloc stations during the height of the Cold War were most responsive. Oh yeah, they were really, really in it. They really wanted to have really wanted to have people listening in. That's for sure. They were responding. They would send out tons of things. It was a sad time, but at the same time, it was an interesting time. So, was an interesting time for sure. Yeah, right now, absolutely. 21 to 22. There's Adventist World Radio in Mandarin to the far east from Sri Lanka being transmitted right now. Adventist World Radio in Mandarin. And kind of interesting. It's always cool. What else we have? Well, that's interesting. Announcer in 13870, but I got an RTTY here. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe some kind of temporary broadcast of some sort. The upper part of 13 megahertz, 13,850 to 14,000. Sometimes it's Mars nets from the military affiliate radio system. They are often on the. They are often on the on that just below the 20-meter band, having different different broadcasts. Romanian 6170 and 7310 probably. Let's try 7310. And that's a pretty good one. 7310. 6170. Yeah, both are good. 6170 and 7310. Radio Romania. Archer's Crafter's Kitchen. Bought a Miles Davis record today from his 1958 Newport concert. Announcer was Willis Conover, who hosted VOA's jazz show in special English. Oh, I remember that, absolutely. I remember that, absolutely. So we'll check a few QSL cards once again, as we are continuing the show today. I thought we'd end with the rest of some of the QSL collection that I've got here. So a few more cards that I've got today. So here we've got HCJB from Quito, Ecuador. You guys remember? Interesting one here. Radio RSA from South Africa. It's the details of my reception. 25 July 85 0200 on 9615. Kind of nice. RSA, Radio RSA, the voice of South Africa. This one, CFRX 6070 or CFRB 1010. This one comes from 1983. That was a very Canada Day thing. July 1st, 1983, I had a reception report to CFRB or CFRX in Toronto. Thank you for your reception report. Please find some station information enclosed. So, Clive Eastwood. For a moment there, I read Clint Eastwood. I was like, what? Clint Eastwood was at CFRX? Wow. Oh, here's one that has a special meaning. If you guys look at the international broadcast bands, you guys have noticed that one of the bands that is in there is the 11-meter band, 25,700 to 26,100, something like that. And of course, if you ever wondered, was there ever something in that band? Well, when the solar activity was good, take a look at this, guys. Radio RSA in South Africa, and look at the frequency. You guys can read it. 25,790. 15 August 85 or 13 August 1300 UTC, 25790. That's the frequency they were using, one of them. Pretty amazing. 25790. I believe it's the only QSL that I have from a station in the 11-meter band. I don't have any other QSLs with that frequency range. So it has a special meaning because, I mean, come on. I have one QSL card from that region. Radio RSA had nice QSLs, by the way, at the time. Still remember. Here's some more Radio RSA South Africa QSL cards. Pretty cool. So, 25790. I remember having kind of a kick listening to that broadcast because it was like one of the only. There were, there were some broadcasts from some shortwave stations also there. Remember, Radio France was in there, the 11 meters. But I didn't hear anything except Radio South Africa, RSA. Radio RSA was there on that frequency range. It's just amazing. So it's cool because I got one QSL card of the 11-meter band. And that's kind of nice. That's kind of nice. Radioactive is barely hearing WWV on 20 megahertz. Richard Cook should try 6400. Let's see, 6400. Anything there? Nope. Not even a peep of a little something. 7995 upper sideband. My DX is there too. Looking for McMurdo. Yeah, that's a tough one. Low power and really far away. Really far away. Really far away. What else do we have? Maybe yes, they were on that banner, remember. Keegan, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. Between the lower and upper 40s here. Here it's, I don't know, minus 13 right now. We're going to drop down to 0 Fahrenheit. Why the Google t-shirt? Because I have a Google t-shirt. And I got nothing against Google. Actually, kind of part of my paycheck comes from Google, from YouTube. So I can't really hate them that much. Yes, they know a lot about us, that's for sure. But, you know. Power 93.5 says he used to listen to the WRNO when it was a rock station. Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember tuning WRNO in the 80s just to listen to the rock music that they had on the air. I totally remember that. And I mean, it's kind of cool. So let me just pour more beer in here in my little glass. Yeah, it was WRNO, Rock of the World. I remember that. Yes, I got, let me just check. I'm going to check here because I didn't see it yesterday. Hopefully it's in here somewhere. So let me just check it out here quickly. I think I have one from later. Let me just check it out here. What do I have in Africa? Okay, here are some Africans that I've got. Okay, what do I have from Africa in here? Just want to see. I've got more than that. There's a few missing in here, so it's not all my collection here. But okay, here's Radio Tanzania in Dar es Salaam. Tanzania. But I have something from Namibia, I'm pretty sure. But it's not in this collection. I'll have to find that. So I've got one here from Tanzania. And if we look here at the back of the card, from Tanzania, 5050 kilohertz. That's from 1996, Radio Tanzania. A horizontal quad full wave dipole. Pretty amazing. Hey, you guys remember Radio Netherlands? Radio Netherlands. Pretty nice card here. Radio Netherlands. So I've got here, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got a QSL somewhere from Namibia, but it's probably in one of the other books that I haven't had the I don't have here. This is another African one. It's pretty interesting. The Lesotho Broadcasting. This is a nice one. Lesotho National Broadcasting Service. The Voice of Lesotho. And if you look at the back of the card, this, you see little details with a stamp. So they send me that card with a stamp directly. No envelopes, nothing. Lesotho Broadcasting. DX Party Line 35 years anniversary card from ECJB. Voice of Indonesia. Look at that. Voice of Indonesia. This was also sent directly by mail. Voice of Indonesia. They just put Gilles L. It was too complicated to write Gilles Little, no, probably. The guy looked at my last name and said, just put L. Forget writing it down, you know. It's just too complicated. But I'm sure, because I have more Africans than that. I've got, you know, Africa #1. I've got from Gabon. I've got several things like that. And I believe I have one from Namibia. I believe I do have one, but it's not in this list. Let me just check that book that I found today. Let me just check something here. What do I have in here? Austria, Australia, China, and more China. Oh, I got some hand QSLs here. Look at that. I got some hand QSLs here. Oh, I didn't even remember that. Wow. I actually have a QSL card from the ARRL station, W1AW. Look at that. And radio teletype. Wow, I didn't even remember that. Okay, what do you got here? I've got Romania. Oh, look at that. If you guys are wondering if some of the stations, the utility stations, are giving QSLs, this is the Shannon Valmet station that I had written to. It's a pamphlet QSL card. And this was for a reception report on 5505 kilohertz. Shannon Air Radio QSL card. The Irish Aviation Authority, Shannon Air Radio. I had written to them and had this QSL. Oh, Radio Nacional. Wow, I don't remember that. I have some I don't even remember. Radio Nacional Amazona in Brazil. Look at that. I got one here. Radio Braz. From 11780 kilohertz broadcast. Wow, look at that. I need to get all the other books out. TGNA on 330 radio. That was Radio Cultural or something like that, right? From Guatemala. We got Radio Cultural Guatemala from June 2005. That one's fairly recent. Guatemala, look at that. Wow. 2006. Japan. Of course, Radio Sweden. Radio Sweden. Stockholm. Radio Sweden. Voice of Turkey. Well, Portugal. Radio Diffusion de Portugal. RTBF. Look at that. Portugal. RTBF from Belgium. This is kind of cool. Really kind of cool stuff here. Oh, look at that. KNLS in Alaska. QSL card. Heard them on 11870 at 13 UT on August 2004. KNLS Alaska. Sweden. Look at this one. Djibouti. Radio Diffusion Télévision de Djibouti. Look at that. In October 2005. Which was kind of a letter. It's kind of cool. Wow. Some of them here I don't even remember that I QSL'd. What's that? Slovakia. Oh, this one is from, I don't know if it's still valid, they still do it, but Sentec. Sentec used to kind of coordinate the broadcasting in different transmitter sites. And they send me this QSL for a Transworld Radio broadcast, but it's at the top. You see it's Sentec, and I don't know if they still are on shortwave stuff. Happy to verify the details of Transworld Radio 9720 in Meyerton, South Africa transmitting station. Huh? Kind of nice. That's kind of interesting. Lots of interesting stuff in here. I need to find the other books and check it out. Check it out. What else do we have here that's unusual? Oh, the Galei Zahal station from Israel. I was transmitting on 6 megahertz somewhere. Look at that. 6973 kilohertz. That's a QSL card from them. Undercover Radio Pirate. QSL card is here. And I have, I still have them easy to find. I have QSL CDs. CDs from these stations. Wow. KBS. These are amateur QSLs. Radio Tirana. But I've got old ones from Radio Tirana that are not visible here. I don't have them in this list. I don't have all the QSLs. I'm missing a lot of them here. So I need to check that out. Well, I QSL'd Radio Sweden like crazy in the last few years they were there. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing stuff. I'm amazed at all the stuff that I've got. There are QSLs I don't even remember in here. This is nuts. I need to check it out. Keegan has 5,000 kilohertz WWV. Take care, Ray Lyle. It was nice to have you here. Next show is, of course, next Friday, January 18th, 2019 at 2000 UTC. What else do we have? Mike DX, Lesotho, nice one. During last Solar Max, I heard a CB station calling from Lesotho on 27555. Wow, Guadeloupe, was another herd, yeah. When I remember listening to 27555 in the last Solar Maximum a couple of years back, and hearing European stations like crazy calling on that frequency was just great. Just a local shortwave station, 4985, one S1 signal. What language? Jerome's, I was asked why YouTube t-shirt, Google, it comes from motivation of free speech. You know, it's just, I got this shirt with, yesterday I was wearing a YouTube shirt. I got this shirt at a YouTube event, and they were giving to all the YouTubers that were invited a YouTube shirt and a Google shirt. So I got them because of that. And it's kind of nice, you know. And I am not ashamed to wear a Google shirt, honestly. Some people might. Mike DX says, wow, Shannon Volm at QSL. That was the first station I heard on Shortwave and took me into the hobby in 7374. Wow. Hey, Johnny DXer, nice to have you here. Sheldon says, just looking at my QSL from the People's Democratic Republic of Yemen, 1984. Wow. Mickey said, you shot Radio Netherlands probably via Madagascar. That station now owned by a group that relays many stations. Just emailed you the card of a BBC relay. Actual fabric on the right side. Let's check that out. I'm going to check out that... QSL. Check that out. Hey, we've got a visitor. Hey, Mr. Cat, come over. People want to see you. Wow, this is nice. Look at that card. With compliments. That's the card Mickey sent. Really nice. Come on. Everybody wants to see you, Pussycat. Come over. Ready? Get down. So, that is nice. Oh, really, Mickey? Centex still verifies the stations that relay? Because I haven't heard that name in a long time. I was wondering if we're still there. Mike DX Undercover Radio is one of the few North American pirates I actually heard. Here we go. Hey, guys. I can now leave the room. Mr. Cat is here. Here's Mr. Cat. Hey, look here. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody wants to see you. So Mr. Pussycat. Yes, he is large, he is big. Like his owner. So Mr. Paul the Cat, or DX for some of you. Saying hello. And always a nice guy. Always a nice little cat, aren't you? Yeah. So just saying hi here. Just got out of his little nap. David says those QSLs are awesome, Jolene. Between the stations that I have that have disappeared and the ones that cannot be received easily because of the weaker solar conditions. A lot has been lost in the bands. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can tell you that. How's RWM for me tonight? Let's try it out. Let's start by 9996. 9996. Right now. Let's put it in CW mode. I'm not seeing anything for 996. Even for 996 doesn't seem to be there much, honestly. I don't think they are coming in very well tonight. Propagation looks a little weird. Actually, there might be a carrier. Yeah, I think I might hear a carrier, but I'm not sure. Power 93.5 has this kitty there. Cool. Does Paul DX understand French? Probably more than anything else, because I always speak to him in French. So I would say that he probably understands French more than he understands English, that's for sure. So, hey, everybody's saying hi, man. We're all happy to see you. DX the cat. Tiago, nice to have you on board. PU2BEV from Brazil. Nice to have you here, Tiago. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Autocorrect, more like auto incorrect. Take care, Mike DX. Nice to have you on board. William Collin, do you listen to HF Aero for Shannon? Yeah, from time to time I do. I sometimes get on a frequency and will get on one of the aero frequencies to try to hear other airports, other stations. Sometimes I'll listen to a station where I hear usually New York or so on, and I know that, for example, Iceland can be there, or like Reykjavik or Shannon, and I will sometimes tune to see if I can hear those from time to time. Andy Banana, nice to have you here. Pretty cool to see everybody here. And yeah, so QSL cards from all over the world. What do I have here that's kind of interesting? I'm gonna check that out here. Got a little something here that I'm wondering what that is. A Happy New Year 2013 from, oh man, for years. They've stopped doing it now for me, but I had sent a reception report to Voice of Vietnam somewhere around 2005, and I had not written to that station in more than 10 years. And every year for 10, 12 years, I was getting the annual Happy New Year card from Voice of Vietnam. I was on their list somewhere. It's funny because I would be curious to know about that today. When I moved from, so my main, I would say that 70% of all the QSLs I've got were all from the postal address when I was a teenager, living with my parents. And 20% are the old address I was living before here. And about 10% maybe are from this new address that I am now. And when I moved from my teenage years with my parents, actually my parents had split up, and my dad moved, and we all went away from that address. But I had written literally like thousands of letters from that address, thousands of letters in all the years. And I'm not joking. I sent thousands of letters from that place. The mailbox in the park next to where I lived there had got thousands of letters from me in here to send over the world. I would spend all my money in buying stamps and envelopes, honestly. That was my main focus. I would spend a lot of my cash just sending out letters. And I remember in 1984 I was getting $12 a week for putting out the trash and cleaning and doing stuff. And my dad would give me $12 a week, and he made a pretty good salary back then. My dad in 85 made a better salary than, I don't know, 80% of the people working back then. He had a really good paycheck. So I had $12 a week, and I remember I would get the $12. I would buy $10 worth of stamps, and there are $2 left. I would just keep it and buy whatever. In 1984, 85, with $2 you had quite a lot of stuff. It's not like in 2019. Today with $2, it's like, what the hell am I going to get with that? And I mean, for years, I'd say in 83, 84, and 85, I spent all my cash in buying stamps, in buying envelopes, because you needed to buy the envelopes also. And writing to stations all over the world. And I really sent thousands and thousands of letters. There are so many stations that I've sent multiple letters. Never got anything back. Never. One of the African, I have a lot of African stations that are probably in another book. And I can tell you guys, one of the things that helped me a lot back then to get QSL cards, I started inserting, that was later, when I got a job, I started inserting $1 in every envelope I would send to African stations. And I would, hide it really well so they don't see that there's money in it. I can say that putting a $1 bill in the envelopes that I would send to Africa in the early 90s really made my African QSL collection grow really fast. It seemed that by putting a $1 bill was kind of, okay, we're going to send this guy a QSL card. And I actually had a lot of African stations QSL back. But in the 80s, I mean, one station that made me really nuts in the 80s? Radio Sweden. When I started with the DX100 in 1983, 82, me and a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Jean-Pierre, we would QSL together. We would actually do reception reports over the phone, listening to the same signal, and helping each other out in the details of what we understood, and sending out reception reports. And actually, for a while, me and my best friend, we would go to the post office together, purchase stamps together, and send the letters together in the same mailbox, which was, was nice because it's not every day you have a friend that actually DXs and has QSL cards. So he actually left early. He did that for a year and kind of got bored at some point. And I continued. But that year, I remember the post office, the lady at the post office, we were there every week buying, like 20, 30, 40 stamps. And I remember once that lady looking at us and saying, okay, I'm curious, guys. I see you here every single week buying 30, 40 stamps for international mail. What are you guys doing? And we explained to her that we were writing to international stations we were hearing on shortwave. And the week after, when I went to buy stamps, I had brought with me some envelopes of Radio Moscow and Radio Berlin International and all sorts of stations all over the world, Radio Australia. She looked at it and she said, wow, I'm so amazed. This is so incredible. Wow, you guys have an amazing hobby. And I said, that's why we're spending all our money in stamps, because we're writing all over the world. Which was honestly, if I would go back to my teenage years, part of it is very rough, but shortwave radio, writing to stations, all of that, I sometimes say shortwave radio and writing to stations and receiving letters kind of saved me in my teenage years. Because I don't know what I would have become if I didn't have that. It was a very rough time in my family. That was a very complicated thing. And I think that saved me from, becoming a bum or something. Because I don't know what I would have done if I wouldn't have had that at the time. But one station, Radio Sweden, my friend was getting QSLs from Radio Sweden. We were writing together at the same darn address. And I would never get anything in the mail. And it was driving me crazy. I was like, you've got 10 Sweden QSLs and I've got none. I don't get it. And I would write and try different ways of writing. I would never get anything. And I never understood why. I never understood, after writing 10 or 12 letters, why is it that I am not getting anything? And he was receiving a letter every time he would write Radio Sweden. A month later, he would have a letter in the mail. Like, what is happening? And there were stations like that. But, there were stations that we were both like that. I mean, he got Swedish letters. I remember getting Radio Berlin letters, and he never did. And I remember even showing him magazines from the German Democratic Republic that I was getting from Radio Berlin. And he was like, I'm mad. I don't get anything from Berlin. And I said, well, I'm getting them all the time. It was just so funny. One that he was really mad, and I always remember. We did a reception report, and I remember it was June. And when I say there are stories behind some cards, unfortunately, I don't see it here, so it's probably not in this batch. But I have a Voice of Nigeria QSL that actually was amazing. So we wrote our reception report in June. Oh, here's, by the way, a couple of QSLs worth mentioning. I'm just going to keep them for after my story. Oh, here's a nice one. And I'm just going to show you guys the really nice, unique ones that I've got. So, sorry. It's the month of June, end of June. It's really hot. I mean, it's, one of those days, and forget it. In 1984, 5, we didn't have air conditioning. So if it was 35 outside, it was 42 inside. And I remember end of June, really hot, sweaty day, in front of the radios, listening to Voice of Nigeria. And for one rare time, because we had crappy radios, for one of the rare times it was good enough that I could actually understand what they were saying. And I believe it was in English, if I'm not mistaken. We both wrote a reception report to Voice of Nigeria and sent it together in the same mailbox the same day and let it go. And African stations would sometimes take a long time to respond. Fast forward, February of the next year, in the middle of a snowstorm. That's why I still remember it. It was so unique. It's a big snowstorm outside. I go to the mailbox. There's this huge envelope. Nice big envelope. In that envelope, when I take it out, I'm sure it's like Radio Berlin or something I get all the time. I look at it, and on the upper left, it says Voice of Nigeria. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got Nigeria. And I'm like jumping up and down. Nobody understanding why the hell I'm so excited about something in the mail. And it's like, I got Voice of Nigeria. I'm so excited. And I go up, and and at home, and we lived on the second floor. And I open the envelope. There's a Nigerian magazine and a QSL card and a nice letter that says, thank you so much for your interest in Voice of Nigeria, blah, blah, blah. The QSL card is the Nigerian airport in Lagos, I believe. And in the letter, they are saying that my letter had gone into somebody else's mailbox. But that person graciously took the envelope and brought it to Voice of Nigeria station. And I'm like, what? My letter went to someone in Nigeria that actually took the time to bring it to Voice of Nigeria because they thought, oh, a letter from Canada must be important. I was like, okay, it's so weird. And I called up my friend. And that day, I remember schools were closed because it was a really big storm. Calling my friends, I got Voice of Nigeria. Do you have something in your mailbox? because you think that maybe they've been sent together, and so he's got nothing, and it's like, well, wait a few weeks or a few days, maybe I'm gonna get it because I got it. It's so cool, and he never got anything, and he was so mad. He came home one afternoon. He came to my place one afternoon, and he looked at it and said, "I'm so mad. You got that Nigeria QSL, and I don't." And it's like, you got all these Swedish QSLs, and I don't. And I know I ain't going crazy over it. Actually, I was going crazy over it, but man, it was just the funny stuff, of the time. Really cool stories. I remember the first QSL card also that I've received in my life was WRFR, which was a very ordinary QSL, but put it in the fact that it was the first ever QSL I have ever received, it was an amazing thing. It's like, wow, I got an envelope from the US with a QSL, and I remember there was a Bible in it. The WRFR used to send Bibles through mail to try to convert you into something. And I remember the second QSL. That one, I was really so surprised. For me, it was an amazing thing. And the second QSL I've ever received in my life was Voice of Korea, which is KBS World Radio today. Because Voice of Korea today is the North Korean one. Back then, Voice of Korea was what is KBS World Radio from South Korea. Sorry, I think I burped while I was talking. I remember yellow envelope with these two round little things with that little string that you just, unroll to open the envelope. And I remember there was a little magazine from South Korea and a QSL card. I think I spent 2 or 3 days just taking that letter again and looking at all the stuff in it. It was, I don't know, for me it was magical. It was like, I got a letter from South Korea on the other side of the world. And I was just totally blown by that. Receiving that was amazing. One that I remember amazing, Radio Austria. Radio Austria. Why is my phone buzzing? So Radio Austria was the a station that would send sometimes some. They had tons of technical details of their own antennas. And I remember when I received one with tons of things in it because it was orange, bright orange, huge letter in the mailbox. And I remember it was so big that they had, I had like this little small mailbox where that shuts down and with a key, and it's like it's a small space, And I remember the postman had like trouble just putting it in, so it was like torn everywhere because he had kind of forced to jam it in the mailbox. And I opened it up, and I remember tons of reading the antenna systems at Radio Austria, all sorts of technical details, schematics of their antennas and how they are made. It was like, wow, this is so cool. Radio Netherlands, I loved because they had, you wanted to know something about a receiver, they had that, they always reviewed receivers at Radio Netherlands, and I don't know if you guys remember, but you could actually ask, I'm planning on buying an ICF 2010 from Sony. Do you have that, technical booklet on that book and the review? And they would send you that. You just asked and they would send you it, and you would have that. They had tons of little booklets on, shortwave, how it works, how propagation works, the ionosphere. Oh man, there were some stations like that had tons of really cool stuff that you could ask. One of the things that I was really fond of, at the end of every year, I would always annoy stations with a calendar. I would write to tons of stations, say, hey, you have a calendar for the next year, And I remember Radio Beijing. They had these amazing, beautiful, huge wall calendars that you could have. Man, these are souvenirs and things that I'm trying to remember here that are truly amazing. Truly amazing. I can tell you that. Truly amazing. I can tell you that. So many things. So many things. So I'm just going to check the chat room a little bit now before I start continuing on my rant and talk about different things. Yeah, no, I'm not hearing RWM, Richard. What else do we have? What else do we have? Bob Guy says, I'm having a Conicom GP5 SSB delivered today. I saw your review and had to buy one. I see one on your shelf. I ordered directly from Conicom. Takes 5 days. Yeah, right here. I actually listened to Medium Wave yesterday. One word of caution. Just one word of caution. Do not leave alkaline batteries in it when you don't use it. It has one flaw that is sad, and it drains batteries a lot, even when you don't use it. So, of course, now I got rechargeables in here, so I don't really care. But if you don't use it, remove the batteries. Unfortunately, for some reason, it really drains a lot of batteries when it's not in use, unfortunately. So that's the negative side. But for the rest, I think you're going to have a lot of fun. The only thing missing on the GP5 is a keypad. It would have been nice to have a keypad on this thing because it's a little difficult to tune. But if you program the frequencies, you'll be able to, kind of play around with it. But I think you're going to have a lot of fun. It's a nice little radio. It's nice. It's a nice kind of unusual form factor also for a radio. So, Soren Jensen, nice to have you here. Cat's name is Paul, and some call him DX. And this is about radio and shortwave radio. Ed Blassie wrote personally to the director of Radio Nigeria, and he personally verified me with a QSL letter. Wow, cool. Hey, Matt, nice to have you on board. Never hesitate to use moderation, I can tell you that. Elton Byington says, the dollar bill trick worked way back in the 60s or so to get a QSL from Radio Katanga, a rebel province of the Belgian Congo. I remember I got a QSL from the Voice of the Tigray Revolution with a huge, like a 3-page letter explaining why they exist and why the Tigray Revolution in Ethiopia, I believe, exists. And it was like, wow, just crazy. Yeah, Sheldon Harvey, reminder that you can get a free sample copy of the Canadian International DX Club Bulletin, CIDX. Just send to cidxclub@yahoo.com. And only if you never asked before, for sure. Nick Mayakovsky, nice to have you on board. Says he took up chess, it saved me. I think when you're a teenager, already it's a little complex. And teenage years are the years of complexity for pretty much everyone. And I think having a hobby or something to hold on to probably helps a lot. So take care, William Coleman. Always nice to have you on board. Ed Blassie says, Jill, 7255 for Radio Nigeria, then came in great here then. Yeah, 7255. My QSL card is for 7255. Absolutely. And pretty amazing. Matt says 7255 still comes in well, 600 UT at least. For me, that's the most dependable African national shortwave broadcaster. Of course, I can get a lot of those religious stations and relays, yeah. Nigeria is a little better lately. I've noticed they're more consistent in their schedules. David says, I've got 2 QSLs from Sierra Spanish for a report I sent some years ago. I shouldn't have mentioned I was a young listener in that report because the cards they chose had nice smiling girls in them. That reminds me of watching one of my radio YouTube videos to see if everything was all right, and seeing a little banner at the bottom that says, meet beautiful Chinese women. And I thought, what the hell is that banner ad doing in my videos? It's like, what? Meet Chinese women? Really? What the hell? So, you know. Oh, man. Pirate on 6950. Let's check that out. Pirate Station 6950. I don't have much there. Something here. Oh, there's Chesapeake, Virginia weather on 6501. Not much pirate activity from what I see here. Joe Summer Newhouse 7255 is strong here in Cornelia, Brazil. I couldn't identify the language to confirm it was Radio Nigeria. Yeah. Yeah, 9650 is pretty good too. Pretty cool, Sheldon. A new 3-year membership today and more requests for a sample bulletin. That is nice. Fastload's got a maudit. Yeah, I got a fast. I've got a fast load. I got a Fins du Monde. I took a big Fins du Monde here. Oh man, just crazy. Yeah, Radio Guinea on 9650 usually. What I hate about Radio Guinea, they often have a very low audio on 9650, so it's difficult to have them really checked out. I just want to check out something here to see if I have. Okay, I have one I want to show you guys here. A couple of QSLs on this side that are pretty nice. Here's Morocco. Le Royaume du Maroc, Radio-diffusion télévision marocaine. So this one, Morocco on QSL here. And the IRRS, the Italian Radio Relay Service, right here. QSL card. That's pretty nice. Very nice. In the back here, what is Radio Korea, Channel Africa. These are Radio Korea or KBS World Radio, Channel Africa. Interesting stuff in here. What else do we have? Some of them, I've got QSLs also. I'm sure some of you that QSL a lot probably have some of the QSLs that come from different, you know, like when stations wanted to give you, like, you know, they had like this 20th anniversary or 30th anniversary or whatever QSL card for whatever reason. There's a lot of that in there. Radio Lira, Adventist World Radio from Costa Rica, 9722.5. Radio Lira from Costa Rica. Another one that I've got somewhere is Radio for Peace International. You guys remember Radio for Peace International in Costa Rica? They left when there was a hurricane that hit, and their antennas got destroyed, and they kind of left back then. It was a very complex situation there because they were not welcome in the country, and So it was a very complex situation. They never came back. Radio Sofia, Bulgaria. Oh man. And to show you guys, you know, through the 80s, I was not able to get any Radio Sweden QSL. Well, my first ever QSL card from Radio Sweden, and it was from my new address. For some reason, they didn't like my old address or something. Or they looked at it and said, oh, that's the annoying guy from that address. Let's not send him anything. My first ever QSL, Radio Sweden from 1993. That's when I had moved to my new address. So this is actually my first QSL, even though I had sent probably dozens of QSL and letters to Radio Sweden throughout the 80s and never received anything. And I got some pennants, of course, you know, like we were talking, pennants. Look at that. Here's a few of them. Here's some stickers. Radio Vlaanderen International stickers. I only keep this because of the stickers. Here's stickers. Radio Canada. And Radio Canada International had this interesting political aspect to their stickers. Depending on who was in power in Ottawa, the color changed. When the Liberal government was in power, the sticker was red. This one I got when I believe it was the Brian Mulroney government of the Conservative Party was on power, and the sticker was blue. And I always thought, seriously, political aspects go to the color of the sticker of Radio Canada International. I just can't believe it. I mean, come on, please. You know what? It's blue, and I got to tell you one thing. Yeah, of course, it's the same color as the Conservative Party, but I never had that political side in my head that this must have been from that era. But I remember reading it somewhere. And I believe Sheldon confirmed to me that, yep, it was red when the Liberals were in power, and it was blue when the Conservative power was there. Crazy. Totally crazy. And here's more stickers. This one, really cool. Voice of Free China. I really loved it. Voice of Free China, very colorful. Voice of Free China, for those that wonder, is what Radio Taiwan International is today. Another Voice of Free China, KBS, Radio Korea. And look at that. In 1993, when I got that first QSL, I actually had a sticker from Radio Sweden International. So it's kind of interesting. Really interesting stuff. And really happy to have kept a lot of that. There's some stuff that I had when I was a teen, when I moved from where, living with my parents in 1991. And I had at least, really big boxes. And this really big boxes, I can tell you that. I had 7 or 8 of them full. Everything I had ever received from any station was in these boxes. So I had 8 of them, and they were really heavy because, paper is heavy when you just stack it up and put it in a box. And when I moved from my parents, it was like a urgent situation. You got to get out now, and you got to get out what you can because you're not going to get it back. So I took the decision of leaving the boxes there and bringing with me only the QSL collection. And of course, it's a complex thing, and it would have been complex even when I moved there to bring that. but I'm sure in these boxes there were like memorabilia and stuff from that would have been amazing to show today on a show like this. And there's part of regret of, yeah, I left the boxes there. They probably threw it in garbage in a dump somewhere. There must have been some amazing things in there that I could have shown everybody. Even just the envelopes with, the different countries and post stamps and stuff. But it was just, one of those moments where you just got to take a decision. You got no choice. Take a decision. You're moving now, and you ain't gonna move tomorrow. You're moving now, and you got 2 hours to get everything you want. Because if you don't take it in 2 hours' time, forget it. It's gone. And that's pretty much what happened at that time. So I left tons of things there. It was sad. Today, think about it, and I'm sure there's so many things in there that would have been just amazing to keep. Hey, Sheldon, take care. Have a great night. See you tomorrow morning in the International Radio Report. Absolutely. CKUT.ca, 1530 UTC. We'll be there tomorrow for sure. Randy in Riverside, California, nice to have you on board. Mark Brando, nice to have you here. Just a quick selfish promotion. If you enjoy what I do, you can help me out with donations. Here's the all the details. If the donations help me, of course, continue with everything I do. And if you enjoy what I do, please consider a donation. It's very helpful. And it has helped me through all the time in continuing these shows. I'm trying to always get to the people, the first time that donators that never, have been watching for years and could spare a little something. So if you like what I do, consider a little donation. It helps out. It helps pay for the equipment, the lighting system, or whatever equipment I need to maintain the stream live. It's really welcome. And it helped me tremendously over the last couple of years in maintaining the streams. And if you enjoy what I do, well, it's I think it's a good idea. And consider it, like somebody did at Christmas. They sent me a generous donation just before Christmas, and they said, I consider this like a subscription. Every year around Christmas, I send you this donation, same amount. And for me, it's like being subscribed to a magazine or a service. And I consider that like a subscription that I give you once a year. And it's kind of nice, it's a way of thinking. Why not? You might subscribe to different magazines. You might subscribe to, all sorts of things that you like and enjoy. Well, you can take it of a subscription and, do a once a year donation or stuff. There's a lot of people also that don't like the fact that there are a lot of fees with PayPal and Patreon. And when your donation is not very high, what happens is the donation and the fees are so high compared to the donation, nothing goes through. Well, just add it up. If you want to give me $1 a month, add it up and give me $12 at the end of the year. At least that portion of fees will be less. In any amount helps. So thanks everybody for donations. Thanks for donating. Thanks for enjoying what I do. Thanks for being here, because without you guys, there would be no radio shows, honestly. And it's fun to be here and do this every week. It's really, really a lot of fun. Okay. Oh, Matt, that's so cool. You got a crystal ship mug. That's nice. I had those made up and was selling them through one of those sites where you can add your designs. Yeah. A radio-free whatever T-shirt. Oh, this is nice. I got a few things from pirate stations like that that are kind of cool. What do I have here? Anything special that I want to show here? Anything special that I want to show? Oh yeah, yesterday I showed you guys a WWV QSL, and so I have a QSL card from WWV for that 25 megahertz frequency they added. So this is from 2014. So here you got the QSL card, W5 for 25 megahertz. But look at this. This is so cool. I kept it as it is. So here is the envelope with my addresses behind my fingers. So actually this was all folded up in a envelope. And you can open the envelope and you roll down WWV QSL and some of the information about when everything started from the time broadcast and so on. So that I kept it like that because I thought it was kind of cool to see it like that actually. What else do we have here? Anything special in here? Oh, here I've got a QSL from a pirate. Channel Z radio pirate. On 6925, 25 watts. On March 31st, 2013. Channel Z radio. Does that pirate still exist? I wonder. 2014 QSL card with the Radio Havana Cuba flag. Well, the Cuban flag. And back of the card, QSL card from Radio Havana, Cuba. Kind of nice little things here. Sometimes also are for very unique purposes. For example, this one, the 10th Asian Games Seoul 1986. I remember I've got one for the Olympic Games in Korea. I believe they are here somewhere. Yeah, 1988. The Seoul Olympic Games. Look at that, 1988. Representing, moments of the Olympics. And Radio Korea, when John Paul II, the Pope, John Paul II, was in South Korea. Interesting representations. I believe this is one of the first ever QSL cards from South Korea. I'm not sure if it's the first one though, but it's close to being the first one for sure. Wow, this is so interesting. So many things in here, and I got tons of other books, and I've got some Africans, more Africans for sure. I've got more. I got a few more Asians also. I got quite a few from South America that are in other books actually, and not part of what I showed you here. So it's pretty amazing when you think about it. All the QSLs and the stuff you get, pretty amazing. Oh yeah, Matt, Channel Z is still around, and they do EQSLs now. That's cool. That's cool. Really nice. Mike B, nice to have you on board. WRMI with music on 7780. Power 93.5 has a Radio Merlin shirt. Wow, that is nice. If Blassie has a John Paul II QSL from Vatican back in the day. Yeah, I showed one yesterday with his face on it. Richard Cook's got, says Cuba sent him 6 QSL cards in one envelope before. Wow. Madam Bali says, whose turn is it to shovel my driveway? Mine again. So, hey guys, I'm a little tired. I'm going to sign off for tonight. So we had a nice 3-hour show yesterday. We have a 2-hour and 40-minute show now. Hope you enjoyed. And we'll be back next Friday, Friday, January the 18th at 2000 hours Universal Time, of course, and we will be talking about radio again. And I didn't even answer all the questions that I wanted to answer. We'll keep that for Friday. So thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for being great fans. Always nice to be on board and do live shows like this. I will now probably go and get myself a pizza. I think I want to have pizza tonight. So for those that want to listen tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 15:30 UTC on ckut.ca, you can listen live to the International Radar Report with Sheldon, me, and David on the show. We're going to talk about the radio, of course. You can listen to the archive also. Thanks everybody for being great fans, and always cool to have everybody here. Without you guys, there wouldn't be any shows, and that's for sure. Bye, my friends. Stay safe. Have a great weekend, and see you Friday, 2000 hours Universal Time. Bye, my friends.